I'm glad to have you join us on the program from the National Assembly. I'm Ignatius Nko. Well, the Senate will not be sitting today, therefore we'll bring to you a package on the oversight meeting between the Senate Committee on Basic and Secondary Education and the Ministry of Education, during which the committee commended the ministry for declaring state of emergency in the sector. Oversight on the performance of the 2018 budget by the National Assembly continued on Monday as the Minister of Education, Adamu, appeared before the Senate Committee on Basic and Secondary Education to provide the breakdown of the 2018 budget performance.
Primarily, it's a meeting to look at the level of budget implementation from government to the ministry and other MTAs, and then to see how far those MTAs and the ministry have implemented the releases that have been made to them. In the course of the discussion, we would like you to state very clearly how this has been done, and whatever you have not provided, you will provide to this committee in due course. Part of this is to help us towards the 2019 appropriation, and then of course we will do on-the-spot visit to corroborate information that you provide for us in this at this sitting, information in terms of how far you have implemented your budget.
The minister made a clear and concise presentation as he also listed major challenges.
Madam, as you are aware, the implementation of the budget has been like the implementation of all our budgets every year, and the pace and the problems remain the same. And with your permission, I would like to take the committee through what has happened during the year. The outline of the presentation, Madam, is on page 3. The review, the summary, and the capital budget, the overhead, a review of appropriation, performance of the capital budgets, overhead performance, the revenue, and the conclusion. On page 4, we have a review of 2017 appropriation, Madam. The total amount appropriated to education in 2017 was 455 billion 161,976,979 naira. Total recurrent out of this was 398 billion 986,819,480 naira. And capital allocation was 56 billion 811,382,472. What was released out of this last figure was 25 billion 565,122,112 naira 40 kobo. For 2017, the percentage of capital release was less than half. It stood at 45%, Madam. The next page, Madam, is the summary of everything for 2017. Our 7 main areas: the main ministry, the parastatals, the polytechnics, colleges of education, our universities, unity colleges, and our office in Paris, the UNESCO outposts. The total for personnel for all the 7 came to 376 billion 153,972,367 naira. Exactly. Total overhead for the same period was 22 billion 832,847,051 naira 32 kobo. The total for the 2, that is the total recurrent, 398 billion 986,819 986,819,418.32 kobo. Capital for the year was 56,811,382,472 naira 90 kobo. And the total for last year was 455,161,976,979 naira 22 kobo. The last column gives the total for each of the units: main ministry, parastatal, polytechnic, colleges of education, university, colleges, unity colleges, and UNESCO. Madam, for the next page, we'll start taking them one by one. 2017 capital performance. For us, it was almost 100% out of what was released. I think the only difference unspent was 360,000 naira. Page 7, the overhead performance. Out of what was released to us, we spent everything. The performance was 100%. Because 241,646,248 naira 20 kobo was released. And that was what we spent. What was not given to us was 586,303,941 naira 80 kobo. Page 8, Madam, is the performance of the capital budget. Appropriations stood at 18,040,254,439 naira 48 kobo. What was released was 9,058,855,747 naira 47 kobo. And out of that, we spent everything, at least 99.8%. On page 9, Madam, is overhead performance. The overhead and the meal subsidy for our colleges of education. The total appropriated was 10,227,708,091 kobo. What was released was 9,080,664,286, which was just about 88%. And performance was 100% in this area. Page 10, Madam, is a review of this year's budget. Total amount appropriated was 651,226,697,523 naira. For recurrent, it was 548,319,406,690 naira. Capital allocation for that period is 102,907,290,833 kobo. Performance of the capital was 15% or 15.5%, because what was released to us out of 102 billion was 15 billion. 948,905,786.90 kobo. Page 11 is summary as per our units, the 7 units. And the grand total came to 516 for personnel, 516,821,533,428 naira. Overhead was 31,497,873,262 naira. Total for recurrent was 548,319,406,690. And capital, as we saw, was 102,907,290,833 naira. And the total allocation for 2018 for the Ministry of Education was 615,226,697,523. The performance of the capital budget or release was 34.7%. What was appropriated was 20,756,226,399. What was released was 3,133,552,552 naira. And performance on that was 34.75%. Page 13 is the overhead cost performance. What was appropriated, the total was 866,950,190 naira. What was released was 438,271,054 naira 90 ko. And we spent everything, madam. So performance was 100% on overhead. But the balance, there is a balance that has not been given to us. Page 14, madam, is the capital performance for the federal government colleges, unity colleges. Total appropriation was 13,821,512,978,000. Out of this, what was released was 2,829,102,593. And there were commitments for exactly that figure. Performance on what was released was 55.65%. Page 15, madam, is the overhead performance for the unity colleges. The overhead made up of 1,678,968,528 and a meal subsidy of 17,156,456,011 naira, given a total of 18,835,424,539 naira. Out of this, 9,436,521,107 naira was released, and utilization was 100%. Madam, internally generated revenue for education, since we are not a revenue generating agency, madam, it has always been a minuscule figure, 19,236,054 naira total. During the year, as always, we have faced so many challenges. That is on page 17, madam. I have a list of some of the challenges we faced during the year. There were late release of appropriated funds. Then there is partial or inadequate release of what is appropriated. Poor access road in most of our schools. We have been complaining for this for a very long time. Problem of non-cash backing for what is appropriated in food. And many of our unity schools and even some of the universities are facing problems of security because of lack of perimeter fencing. There was also late implementation of projects and programs as a result of the late releases. These are the problems we face with regard to budget. We have so many other problems, but we have limited ourselves to this. I must commend you and your constant effort and understanding towards what we go through in our bid to actualize the vision and mission of the ministry, especially your role in resolving issues of unionism, which right now actually we are in the middle of another crisis. So I want to seize this opportunity to once again appeal for you to keep up what you are doing. I have no doubt in my mind that with your current level of support and commitment, all the identified areas of challenges will be surmounted. On our part, we shall continue to give all the necessary support to the committee towards realizing its dreams of moving education to greater heights. And I would like to thank you very much for your patience and for listening to us, madam. Thank you.
The 15.9 billion naira released for the capital allocation out of the appropriated 102.9 billion attracted reactions from the Senate committee.
I would yield the floor to my colleagues for any interventions.
I must confess that since assumption of office, the Honorable Minister of Education has actually done a lot in the area of education. He now found it so compelling that he initiated process for declaration of state of emergency in the education sector. So where you actually declare an emergency in the education sector, that actually underscores the need for adequate funding to be provided to the education sector. Education is very vital. No country will grow and develop without education. Basic education, secondary, and also tertiary education. So, if you're going through the budget, you will discover that in the year 2018, out of 102 billion allocated to education, only 15 billion was released. I'm talking about capital allocation. Only 15 billion, 15.9 billion, approximately 16 billion was released. That translates to 15.49%. So actually, as vital as education sector is, allocation, so releases to the education sector stood at 15.49%, which is actually grossly inadequate. If we really want the education sector to move forward, the allocation to education sector must be higher than that. So I would like to call on my colleague to really collaborate with the ministry to ensure that funds are released, adequate funds are released for the education sector. At least nothing will stop maybe the Federal Ministry of Finance to release at least 50 to 60% for the education sector. But actually, 15.49% is grossly inadequate. So I would like to call on the Honorable Minister to kindly have a very close relationship with the committee, both committee here in the Senate and also in the House of Representatives, so that where you have some challenges, like in the case of funds releases, the committee will come to your rescue by ensuring that if they can, maybe they can even take it off at the highest level in the National Assembly to ensure that sector aspect as vital as education is adequately funded. Because all of us are product of education, basic, secondary, and tertiary education. So we cannot fold our arms and watch where for the education sector to be treated maybe with levity. It's not, we cannot fold our arms and watch. So, Madam Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you for listening and your attention, Honorable Minister.
Honorable Minister, let me join my colleague in congratulating you because the education sector is very, very critical in the development of this nation. I've been trying to compare what was allocated to the federal government colleges last year and in 2018. I can't see much difference, but I will also plead because some of this will come from the envelope that we bring to the National Assembly. We want to see more allocation to the federal government colleges because of the recent problems that we have, seen here, the Senate confronting the federal government colleges, including the Queen's School of Queen's College in Lagos and other federal government colleges. However, I'm happy to see that even though about the 17 billion or million was allocated for meal subsidy, but less than about 50% was released in the 2018 budget, hopefully before the end of the year, more will be released because this is a very critical area. And I'm sure that it is one of the improvements that this administration has brought into federal colleges. Honorable Minister, I know that the requirement of committee varies so much. I thought, I don't know, we should also have your GIFMIS print out in some of these payments, because the GIFMIS has a way of showing us the actual performance of the ministry. But having said that, Honorable Minister, I want to believe that because of your commitment, you also do more for education, particularly the federal government colleges, because this is where the foundation of the nation is laid. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Honorable Minister, I think my colleagues have already started congratulating you. I don't have any option than to join them this time around. But I want to say something. My colleague, maybe he made a mistake by saying he's calling on his colleagues for release of money. We don't release money. The release of the money should come from your side. So you know where you can get the money, not this side. And having said that, the other minister, what I want to say is that as a person, you know you are my friend. But as a committee, your relationship with the committee is not encouraging. And I don't know whether it's from your side or from here. Particularly, maybe your PAMSEC or you're not doing what they're supposed to do. For instance, all activities you did that I've seen in this budget, I've never seen an invitation extended to this committee in any of your functions. Because other committees that I belong, you know, we at least when we come and see what you do, it will give us the insight to know what you are facing. But I don't know why let me not say you, I don't know why some ministers or some PASEC avoid the National Assembly. And they can't do without us because obviously during budget they must come here, just as you are here now. Maybe seeing my honorable minister again here is 2019 budget for defense. So as I do, you know, occasionally we bump into your office. There's nothing wrong that occasionally you bump into this place. We'll discuss. It's not only when we come to, for instance, if there's any areas you need the assistance of the National Assembly, we'll have it beforehand, not when it comes like this.
The committee acknowledged the declaration of state of emergency in the education sector.
Distinguished colleagues, Honorable Minister, and our other guests, let me make some general statements and then ask some specific questions. As we have often said, the reason for looking at budget implementation is both to see how well and how far federal government has implemented its budget in terms of releases, and to also know to what extent the NTAs have implemented the releases that have been made to them and the impact that these releases that are made year in, year out have had on the particular sector, in this case, the education sector. So I will start by commending the minister for declaring a state of emergency, because we had this committee, and when I was in the House, we had started to alert the ministry that we needed to declare a state of emergency on education and have a coordinated approach to begin to resolve and to solve the problems of education in the country. Even though it was promised, it was never done. And it is our belief that unless we have a coordinated approach and not an ad hoc approach to the education problem, we will not be going anywhere. And so for us, for me in particular, I'm very happy that finally that declaration has come to pass. The next thing that we would like to see are the action plans, the strategies, and the policies that will form the content of this declaration for a state of emergency to actualizing what we intend to actualize, and that is to improve the education sector and raise the standard of education. And when your budget is brought in, hopefully very soon, it should have been brought in by now, but not just your budget, the entire budget of the Federation is here to be presented to the National Assembly. When it comes and is before us, we would like to see the programs and the policies that you have in place to actualize the content of a declaration of a state of emergency on the education sector. So I commend you for the initiative. I would also like to commend government for appropriating over 100 billion to capital. It has taken very long, it's been a long time that they appropriated anything more than 60 to 70 billion to the capital sector in education. And except we begin to do so, to take care of not just infrastructure, but training and retraining of teachers and other aspects of education that will go into the content of the quality of education, we will not be making much improvement. And so this, in the year under review, government had allocated 102 billion to the capital sector alone. But in the same vein, I would like to say that a release of just about 15% goes little, it does nothing to show the seriousness of government in allocating 100 billion to the capital budget in education. If personnel recurrent is being released, it adds little to it. So if this amount of money, appreciable amount of 100 billion has been appropriated and only 15% of it is released, it makes no difference at all to the quality of education, to what we need to do in education. And so our appeal is that even if other sectors are being given releases of actual releases of 10%, as we have seen across board, it is not the education sector that will be subjected to that same treatment. If we are serious about a state of emergency in the education sector, we cannot be releasing 15% at the end of the year. Even if we have a few more months to the end of the financial year, the budget year, I cannot see them appropriating anything much more than that. But our appeal is that government must release more than this 15%, more than 50%, not just 50%, more than 50% to the education sector before the end of the budget year. Now, the other observations I made, especially as far as the 2018 budget is concerned, you have, of the paltry sum of 3 billion that was allocated to you, the performance on the releases is 34%, or 0.7%. This amount already is very meager, which is what we are talking about. The releases are too poor. Why have you not utilized the balance of what is released to you? It's just a straightforward question. You may want to explain to us why you still have this amount of money pending when the release by itself is not enough. And I made that observation again on page 14, where the Federal Unity Colleges, you have what has been released is 2.8 billion, and what you have utilized is 1.5 billion. What is the hesitation in the utilization of these funds? Now, you have done something. Your internally generated revenue on page 16. Your internally generated revenue on page 16. You have 19.2 million, but you have not given us any indication of the expenditure on those internally generated revenue. That internally generated revenue. Now, I want to look at the challenges that you have. You have talked about, among other things that you have mentioned here, you've talked about poor access routes in most of the colleges, and you've talked about lack of perimeter fencing. Let me first of all commend you on the steps you are taking to make sure that our schools, our unity colleges, our children are more secure, and ensuring that you provide security apparatus and security gadgets for them. We have continued to say that if you have items that are tangible in your capital budget, we would have no hesitation in ensuring that they scale through. So if you brought up your capital budget for 2019, and you have elements of what you have mentioned as your challenges there, I want to assure you that we will ensure that those items go through in your capital budget. The problems that we have had and often had with your budget are the programs that you have that are preponderant in your budget to the exclusion of anything tangible at all. But I think that the ministry has begun to come up with more tangible things, as you have shown in the details of your capital budget. Now, let us go to the details of your capital budget. Let me briefly go through some of the observations I have made here. As I have said, the interest of the committee is to see, part of the interest of the committee is to see how well you have utilized the releases that have been made to you to enhance the standard of education and the quality of education. So in your details on capital performance, on page 3, I think, 2018 budget, on page 3, my first observation is the last item, that is item 18, where you talked about implementation of the Ministerial Strategic Plan 2016 to 2019, meetings of the National Steering Committee, Core Implementation Committee, tax teams, and etc., etc. And you have utilized 22 billion out of the 72 billion, million that you allocated to that sector. I'm on page 3, on your capital budget. Page 3, I mean. Budget performance, 2018 budget performance. This document. Number 18, this document. Are we there? Are we there? Number 18, where you have allocated 72 million out of the 72 million that was budgeted, and you have utilized so far 22.8 million. We would like to know what is the content of that strategic plan. What is the content of that strategic plan, and to what extent has that plan been implemented? And we would like to know, is it a recurring item in the capital budget, or is there an exit period for that particular budget item? On the next page, which is page 4, look at item 24. When you talked about annual World Teachers' Day, that item 24, we would also like to know, because as you know, and we also know, the quality of teachers that we have, to a large extent, determines the standard of our education. And not just the quality, the motivation of teachers, the welfare of teachers. There was a World Teachers' Day, which you celebrated with 34 million. What is the content of that World Teachers' Day that you had, and how did it serve as a motivation to teachers? Were there any contents of it at all for teachers that would have motivated them? And if there was none, can we try to be more specific in terms of welfare of teachers, in terms of ensuring that there is some take home for teachers, in terms of recognition that they have as a result of this world attention to World Teachers Day? Because I believe that it's in small items and in small things like that that we can begin to motivate our teachers. Now let's look at page 7 and number 51. when accreditation of entrepreneurial subjects. You recall that these subjects were introduced not too long ago. You're talking about accreditation of these subjects that are already been offered in our examinations. And we would like to know, because as at the last time, that one of the budget sessions we had, either last year or 2 years ago, there were still some problems. Now, as a result of, you have allocated 37 million to it, that you have not utilized any of it yet. What did you intend to do there? And would like to know the status of the entrepreneurial subjects and what you are doing and how well it is going for now, up to now. Let's look at page 10. Are we together? Yes. Look at page 10, item 115. Provision of security infrastructure in 104 colleges. We do know that you have not covered 104 colleges. Can you provide details as to the colleges that you have covered so far? I know there was appropriation for it last year. There was appropriation for it the year before. Let us know in specific terms how many Unity colleges have so far been provided for and how many are still pending. And if they are coming up in this year's budget, we'd like to know those details to know what we need to appropriate to them. So some of these questions, you may not be able to respond to them now, but we would like written responses to reach the Secretariat. Let's look at page 12 and item 134. Servicing of BA scholarships or allowances to BA countries. Often we have had problems with our students outside the country for the non-provision of their allowances. And year in, year out, I do know that when it comes to allowances to students, the committee has done everything to ensure that what you have sent up as your requirements are allocated and properly appropriated for. We would like to know for the one that you have there under 134, I know there's another one down below the line. We would like to know, and we have asked this question severally over the years, we would like to know what are the details of this 827? Where are the schools? How many students do we have in each school? And I see that you have not utilized the funds yet. Why have you not utilized the funds? Because these are straightforward allowances. What is stopping the ministry from processing these allowances and sending out to the students before it becomes a problem with the students out there? And further down the line, we have, down the page, we have number 139. It is the same thing for fresh 272 scholars, even though that you have implemented. What are the details of which schools are there and how many are in those schools? We'd like to have those details, please. On page 15, please. Page 15, number 170. Coordinate development of an appropriate funding framework for teacher education development fund account, teacher education development fund account. We would like to know what that fund account has done so far. As you know, teacher education is one area that both the ministry and, in fact, government has nearly not given enough attention to. And we do believe that if teacher education is not given attention, notwithstanding the infrastructure you have on ground or the instructional materials that you have on ground, there will still be a huge gap in the standard of education. So with just the NTA in charge of teacher development program and UBEC providing some funds to states for teacher education, we do not have any other MTA as far as we know that gives any attention to that aspect of it. We would like to know what the content of that is and what the ministry has done so far and what achievements, milestones have been gained so far in that particular aspect of it. and the funds appropriated to it is too meager. If we are to do anything significant in that sector, we need to up the appropriation to that subhead. And on the following page, number 173, where you talk about conducting skills gap assessment in collaboration with relevant agencies on the curriculum in our universities. Even though this is a committee on basic and secondary, we do know that it's a major problem in Nigeria that we have courses in our university that are not relevant to industry in Nigeria. And so it is good that the ministry is looking at that. And so we would like to know, so what have you done so far as developing that curriculum that will be relevant to industry in Nigerian universities? So, Honorable Minister, I believe I've asked quite a number of questions. Some you can't respond to now, some we need written responses to them. But for those that you can respond to, we would like to hear what you have to say about them. And finally, the committee would like to say that once again, that the releases to the education sector is too poor, is too meager, and we would like to see government making more releases to the education sector.
At least 4 or 5 of the questions you are asking for details. This will be provided. But on the question of bilateral education agreements, scholarships, I would like to tell you that we have taken steps. This time, there will not be any embarrassment for this country. I think my directive is all the money should be paid to our embassies so that there will not be any gap between the time when students need the money and when it is sent to them. And the details for this Teacher Development Fund account will be provided. And the achievements, the milestones that have been registered will also be provided, Madam. And on the skill gaps, this is part of our effort, part of the effort of the ministry to establish some equilibrium between academia and industry. We are doing this so that at least qualifications will be relevant to what is needed in the industry, so that there will be some congruence between academia and industry, the world of school and the world of work. And the World Teachers' Day, what we did, probably that's the most important single event the ministry does to motivate our teachers, because that is when we recognize what they've been doing. There is already in place some process where the best teacher is chosen from local government, state, and up to national level. And all this money that you see here, bulk of it is made up of the prizes we distributed to them during the celebration. And you asked about the strategic plan. The ministerial strategic plan was what we drew up when we came to the ministry. And it is on the basis of that plan that this declaration of emergency is going to be made. And I know I promised the country that the declaration will be made in April. The fact that it was not is not the fault of the ministry. My attention was drawn by the National Economic Council that the power to do that probably lies with the states. So I was asked to come and make a presentation before the National Economic Council, and it took over. I believe at this next meeting it will release all the details, which we hope will be in line with what we are going to start tomorrow concerning funding. And then by the time the council declares it, all states will be carried along. I hope it's clear, Madam. And on page 12 and page 14, you have queried why we have not been able to spend the money. Actually, all of it has been spent, only that we are so faithful, we wanted to show what we spent and what was only committed. So there have been commitments for all the amount. But that the difference we showed there was this actual expenditure, and this was commitment that will be paying later. But they have been spent. There is no shortfall. And what my friend the senator said, I think I would like to take responsibility. But I think the permanent secretary and the civil servants have been sending invitations, but I don't want to start an argument. I will accept that you have not received the arguments, the invitations. Actually, what I asked once was, what have we done to members of the Senate, and what have we done to members of the House of Representatives? Because, as you observe, I have not been seeing you at our functions. But, you know, even for our own credibility, I think it is for us to have you been with us during those times so that the nation will know we are together with our committees. But I take the responsibility and I apologize, and I assure you that I'll be taking the invitations from now on personally to you members whenever we are going to do something national.
Honorable Minister, let me give you another reason why it is important.
Yes.
Not just because we want to be carried along, because most of your budget workshops,
all of it actually.
and yes, all of it. So, you know, being there is good for you because perhaps we'll stop querying and wondering whether these programs were executed or not.
Okay.
Because to be honest with you, most times when you bring them in, we do not believe that you execute all of these programs, workshops, conferences, and seminars. So to that extent, it's very important.
I have also noted that I've been asked to ensure that the printout from JIPMIS is normally attached to this. We'll do it from next time. Senator Kakai is not around. He has said something that is very, very important. Even though, sir, you have already knocked out one point he made, because release is not by the National Assembly, I know. Probably what he wanted to say is the National Assembly should now appropriate more for us. And the fact, I'm sure that is what he wanted to mean. The president made a very nice statement while he was in Paris. And I know there was nothing from the ministry to make him say that. So even at that time, I just assumed some members of the National Assembly have been on him, because it was very, very good when he promised that he's going to put more money in education. I'm sure probably it is his interaction with some of you, and I would like to thank you very much for that. Madam, I think that is all that needs answer now. All the other details we are going to make sure they are sent to you.
The Federal Capital Territory Universal Basic Education and the National Commission for Mass Literacy and Adult Education also presented their 2018 budget performance.
In making your presentation, we shall expect you to let us know the extent to which you have assessed your matching grants and the implementation of the grants together with what you have received yourself so far for 2018, as much as is possible. But of course, for implementation for access of matching grants, you may give us that information for as far back as is possible, because we would like to know, are you up to date in your assessment of matching grants, or are you lagging behind? And if so, what are the constraints, even though we know that the general constraints from states is the lack of provision of the matching grant from the states. Does FCT have that problem too? And some other such information. So with that, I think you can go ahead and make your presentation.
Actually, before you, Madam, is submission is the matching grant. The allocation for 2015 from the National Commission is 876,756,756 naira 76 kobo, and we received the same amount from the FCT administration, making a total of 1,753,513,513 naira. Sorry, 513,513 naira 52 kobo. For the year 2016, the allocation is there as indicated, totaling 2,084,054,000. That of 17 is we have a total of 2,582,686,367 naira 10 kobo. For 2018, the allocation from the Commission was 1,473,8
832,845 naira 20 kobo. We did not receive anything from the FCT administration, and that is we did not assess the 2018. On page 3 of the document is the summary of the projects and the performance from 2015 to 2017. For the year 2015, the total amount received is 1,751,371,380 naira 29 kobo, and that is the total contract awarded for the 2015, including the amount we received from the Commission and the matching grant from the FCT administration. And as at date, we have paid 1,352,007,674 naira 40 kobo, leaving a balance of 363,705 naira 89 kobo, which indicate about 80% implementation. And for the year 2016, the total amount is 2,574,592 naira 24 kobo, and to date we have paid 1,039,701,328 naira 16 kobo, leaving a balance of 960,873,264 naira 8 kobo, representing about 52%. For 2017, the total amount is 2.5 billion as indicated there, and we have not paid anything to the contractor. For the 2017, Madam, these projects were not actually awarded. They will soon be awarded. We are waiting for the go-ahead of the Honorable Minister to advertise for the 2017. On page 4 of the document, Madam, is the projects awarded for 2015. And they are there from page 4 up to page 28 of the document. And from page 29 of the document, we have the project awarded for 2016 projects from page 29 to page 52. Actually, that's the situation the board is as of now. We have not started we have not assessed 2018, but we have assessed 2015, 16, and 2017 is there with us, waiting to be advertised soon. And, the delay for the implementation of the 2015-2016 project actually is due to the implementation of the TSA that affect the board. The money was mopped off by the FCT administration, and it follows a time before the money was recovered back to the central bank account of the board. And, there was also a period of about a year also without the constitution of the board, and that requires sometimes approval has to go to the Honorable Minister for the payment of this project. But now, as at January this year, the board was implemented, and that's why we are fast-tracking the projects. The projects are actually ongoing, and the 2017 matching grant, as I've said, will soon be advertised. And we have started also making effort to prepare our action plan for submission to the Honorable Minister FCT so that we assess the 2018. It is only after when we receive the amount from the FCT administration that we will now write to UBEC, that is the commission, to assess the matching grant. So that now the board is on 2017. We have already received the money. It is in the central bank account of the board, and we will soon advertise the 2017 project.
Chairman of Superb, thank you for your presentation. The question, it was clear enough, explicit enough. And the presentation, the other things, items are there for us to see. The question I was going to raise, which you partly answered, are in respect of your funds for 2015 and 2016, for which you have balances of 363,960 million. You partly answered it that they were mopped up and were thereafter returned. Now, have you gone ahead to commit those funds for 2015 and 2016 so that to avoid them being mopped up again? And what steps have you taken to ensure that you can utilize these funds before they are mopped up again? We understand that for 2017, you are in the process of completing due process of procurement for that one. And so we would like to see you do that as quickly as possible because as you know, we are literally at the end of the year. You do not want those funds mopped up again after the end of the budget year. So I would like to know, just like my colleague had asked, we would like to know where these funds are now. Have you finished procurement process for them? Have you awarded them? And are they in execution stage now? And what steps are you taking to ensure that the funds are not mopped up again? So go ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam. 15 and 20 systems actually were completed and the projects were awarded. They are currently ongoing. And about 2-3 weeks back, we met with all the contractors and we gave them a deadline on which to complete this project so that we pay them off. Madam, the Honorable Minister is really on us on this issue because we have a lot to do in our various schools, primary and junior secondary schools and the FCT. The money is there in the central bank account line. It's not being utilized, and we told the contractors point blank that due process was followed in awarding the contracts to you, and we believe due process can also be followed to revoke the contract if you are not willing to do them. And as I'm speaking to you, Madam, right now there's a lot of improvement on what we are seeing, and hopefully between now and the end of December, we should be able to finish 2015-2016 project. Actually, the 2016 were awarded in June this year. June this year, 2016 procurement was done. And, that's why we see we still have this large amount of money in the account, about 960 million. We have so far achieved about 52% of the implementation of the projects. And we are trying our best to ensure that at least the projects were completed. What actually delays the projects was the non-constitution of the board. Sometimes it takes about 2, 3, 4 months for a file to cycle from our office to the Honorable Minister's office to come back and all this. But now with the board on ground, we are able to at least ensure that contractors are being paid within 1 month, highest 1 month with the completion of their project.
With that, what is left for the committee to do? Because I recall that the last time we came to the FCT itself to do oversight, we didn't have an opportunity to go around and make spot visitation to some of the schools. And so we are going to give you some notice and make on-the-spot visitation of some of these projects that you have executed. Because as you know, yours is purely project implementation. And that's all that you have to do with little content of policy and all that. So the committee will make arrangements to do that as quickly as possible, and that will be communicated to you. I think without any further questions from my colleagues, we would like to discharge you. While discharging you, we would urge you to ensure that you complete the 2015-2016 projects that you have ongoing. And for those who are not able to execute, you should have a clause that will enable you to revoke those contracts if they are not able to execute them, because the funds revert after a while to stop the funds from being mopped up into the TSA. So with that, we discharge UBEP, but not acquitted. We have the Executive Secretary. Is it the Executive Secretary? Yes. Yes. Of Mass Literacy before us. And you may please go ahead and make your presentation.
For 2018, the Commission was given or appropriated the sum of 1,738,257,613 naira in respect of personnel, overhead, and capital cost. The personnel cost is 999,423,103 naira. The overhead cost is 59,843,673 naira, and the capital is 678,988,837 naira. In respect of the overhead, so far we received the sum of 29,921,836. From the 678,988,837 naira, we received the sum of 67,898,885 naira, which represents 10% of what was appropriated to the Commission. And as at the time we submitted the document, we spent about 8 million, but so far the figures have changed. Then, in respect of the overhead on page 17, as at the time we submitted this document, we received a total of 24,934,863 naira 75 kobo. But we got additional tranche in November of 4 million plus, which made the total now for the overhead releases to 29,921,386 naira 50 kobo. And a large part of it, most part of it, of course, has been utilized in respect of the overhead. So this is our submission in respect of capital and overhead, distinguished senators.
Your presentation is clear, no? But let me ask a critical question that continued to crop up for the past, in some 2 budget cycles ago, and that is your office. I know that at a point in time, either a year or 2 ago, yes, it was in your budget.
Yes.
But I find out that it had been removed. How have you handled that problem?
We tried the best that we could. I then saw the Honorable Minister of State for Budget, the current Minister of Finance, and she reiterated the fact that we were then in recession and that the government cannot give us money to procure an office accommodation. And I also tried that with the DG funds, and he said the same thing. So unfortunately, we could not get the money to buy the property.
In terms of the details that you have provided, you have tried to touch on some core areas, mandate areas, which is good. A lot of budget implementation that we have seen have rather touched on either office equipment or buildings and things like that, but you have touched on some areas that are core to the mandate that you have. We would like to see that continuing. In the absence of any other thing, we will take some more time to look at this before your budget is brought. And again, to abhor the paltry 10% that is being allocated, that is being released by government across board. And we want to again reiterate the fact that at this rate, we cannot see a budget implementation of even 50% before the budget cycle runs out. The budget year runs out. We would like to see a situation where most of this budget is implemented as well as the budget of other MDAs in the country. You can't do mass literacy in just the federal capital. It has to be in every state and in the nooks and crannies of this country. Yes, so when you do that, then you normalize and rectify lopsidedness that has been noticed by my colleague. So for now, all your staff is here in the headquarters?
No, we have 6 donor offices. We have vocational resource center at Mina. So we are not only in the headquarters, we are spread in the zonal offices as well.
With that, distinguished senator and the chief executive of mass literacy and your staff, we would like to discharge you, but as usual, not acquitted because we haven't visited any of your projects to know what you have done.
So thank you very much. May I take...
The Federal Road Maintenance Agency defended its 2018 budget before the National Assembly Committee on FEMA. 6 months after the commencement of the budget implementation, the Senate committee visited the agency, demanding a breakdown of its budget performance so far.
The Senate Committee on FEMA is here in keeping with our constitutional responsibility to oversight the use of the nation's resources by the different ministries, departments, and agencies of government. The Senate Committee on the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency is the committee of the Senate that has oversight responsibilities over this agency. And therefore, in keeping with our mandates, we are here today to familiarize ourselves with the operations of the agency, and more importantly, to look at the performance of the agency's budget over the last 1 year and your hopes and expectations for the future. It is our belief and our hope that this visit will enhance the openness that already exists in the operations of this agency and will give us as legislators an opportunity to better understand the constraints and challenges that you face, and also give us an opportunity on behalf of the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to actually see and ensure that the nation's resources entrusted to the care of this agency is being utilized in keeping with your statutory mandate, and more importantly, to the benefit of the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This will also give us an opportunity to enable us review the current legislative framework under which you operate, in case that there is any need for that, given some of the constraints that you may face. So we're here to watch, to listen, and to learn, and also to contribute to the success of the agency. Let me also use this opportunity to say that although a list of board members for the agency has been forwarded to this committee by the Nigerian Senate for screening in order to create a board for the agency, but there are certain legal considerations which the committee is looking at that has made it difficult for us to proceed with screening the new board as expected by the Senate. In the next few weeks, the committee will meet to review this situation and take a decision in line with extant laws, and the Senate will be briefed accordingly. We therefore want to urge members of the staff of FEMA and other people with an interest in the workings of the agency to continue to give their maximum support to the management of the agency as well as the legislature, while we try to do what is best in the interest of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. As soon as decisions are reached on these and other issues by the committee, the public and indeed the Senate will be informed accordingly. May I therefore at this point invite the Managing Director of the agency to brief the committee with very clear figures on the performance of the 2018 budget, as well as any leftover issues from the 2017 budget, and then your projections for 2019 as we move ahead. Thank you very much.
The list of projects and the releases for both capital and recurrent to the agency during the 2017 implementation of the 2017 budget, which continued until May of this year, and also implementation of the 2018 capital budget, which started in June until this point. I want to assume that these documents have been submitted to the clerk of the committee, and I will present them here now. I have been here as the MD from the first week of October last year. Our first task was to quickly take a look at the condition of the roads, do a quick inventory or condition survey of the most critical failures that we know across the country. We started from the worst sections, so we did a quick tally of all the worst sections in the different, in all the states of the Federation on the federal network, and by early December we had a compilation of. By November or early December we submitted a 3-month work program to the Federal Ministry of Works, saying that if funds permitting, we will embark on a quick repair of all those identified bad sections across the country, which normally should have gone as end of year, ember months intervention before the holiday season. This was recognized and endorsed by the Ministry of Works. If you remember, this also made its way into the President's speech at the end of the year on New Year, saying that we have a 12-week program and a task to go on the repair of roads on 44 identified sections of the federal highway. That was what we did between December and March. Most or all of that was done using direct labor from our recurrent funding. Sometime in February, we finally completed the procurement of the 2017 capital projects, and these were awarded. Implementation started soon after that. So it contains a list of FEMA's 2017 capital projects completed and ongoing, and also a status of releases to FEMA from the 2018 capital and also 2018 overhead cost appropriations. The projects giving descriptions of the project, the contract numbers, the contractor's name, the contract sum, percentage completion to date, and the remarks. And at the end of it, we have a summary, and then next is the releases of capital and overhead cost appropriations for 2018. The appropriations, as you will see, sir, the appropriations for the 2018 budget in capital is 32.721 billion. The appropriation for overheads is 12.484 billion. This represented an increase over 2017 for the capital and a slight decrease in 2018 for the recurrent. On the releases side, we've had releases of 2.272 for the capital and an unreleased amount of 30.448. Amount utilized so far is 2.012 billion for the capital, which is almost all of the releases so far. You will note that the releases is below 10% of the current year appropriation. And amount utilized to date of the overheads is 6.101, which is almost all of the releases so far. The last time we had release for the overheads was, I think, the month of June. But we are told a current release is imminent as we speak now. Right now, the 2019 budget is being prepared And in our discussions with the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Budget and Planning, we have an indication that we can look forward to up to 40% or perhaps maximum 50% for FEMA of the capital appropriations, and perhaps another 3 billion on the recurrent appropriations. These have yet to come in as we speak.
The presentation indicates that the agency's 2018 budget implementation stood at 6% as of November 14, 2018, and that statistics left much to be desired by the Senate committee.
Nothing in the world is free of charge. It's only Nigerian roads that are used freely without payment. Nowhere in the world that people use highways without paying for it. You pay by way of, some levy, some tax on the petrol or diesel or whatever fuel that you use in moving the vehicles. You pay also by tolling the highways. You pay also by fines on the wheel loads of your vehicles. But here we have had to do nothing like that for the past 19 years. And this has made the situation extremely very difficult. So no amount of work that FEMA will do that will receive any form of grace. Because the more you try, the more daunting the problem continues to be. I just returned from the oversight of the Senate Committee on Works, driving on the road, and it was certainly not a palatable development. My back is still aching. At this age is not a simple matter. It is our hope that as we try to amend FEMA law and also work on the fund, Road Maintenance Fund Act, we will be in a position to do better than what we're doing now. My question is that with such a party release of capital budget of 6%, is it really hoped that you make a mark in what you're supposed to do here? First of all, cause a change in what you are supposed to actually do, because we are in a government of change. I do not even see the summary of 2017 in this document. I don't know whether I missed the page, because I only saw the 2018 summary. But 2017 budget performance went in deep into the year up to May 2018, and therefore, since our encounter has not been earlier than 12 months ago, we expected that we should see the summaries of 2017 presented here, so we can have a look at what really transpired. So if there is any way that you can give us insight on that, otherwise maybe Chairman can request that you forward this information to reach the committee before you come for budget defense of 2019.
I believe that as important as the agency is, 6% performance is completely unacceptable, and it is beyond, I won't say reason, but if you have an agency that is supposed to work and ensure that the Nigerian roads are portable, patched, and ensure that goods and services can be moved from one
part of the country to the other. This 6%, I'm sure, is not as a result of your fault, but as releases that have been done to you. I'll call on the government, and we'll also be looking at your laws where we can ensure that this kind of agency should either be on just like or sort of arrangements should be made where as soon as the appropriation for the year is passed, you can get 100% funding, because it's like consumable, you move, but you're supposed to be completely on the roads, day in, day out, in the afternoons, in the nights, to ensure that our roads are more driven. And I think the people, the thought of this agency was to do that. Then I think that government should be able to provide money at least 100% so that you start your projects and ensure that as you have various potholes or you have roads that you need to maintain and you need to work on them, you can work on them as quick as possible so that people who are motorists, people who are on the roads every day can be happy that the roads are being maintained.
I want to say that I do not personally have much confidence that the Road Funds Act will make much of a difference to the situation here in FEMA. Because in truth, this act does nothing new. Presently, there is a law in the PPRA Act that provides that a certain percentage of the money spent on petroleum products in this country be remitted to the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency for the maintenance of federal roads. This money has only been released once since the passage of that act to the agency. So there is already a law that demands and requires that funds be made available to FEMA. And that law has not been obeyed by any government. So there is nothing, therefore, to suggest that changing the name of the law to now call it the Road Funds Act will make any difference that the PPRA Act had failed to make. My own take on this thing is to call on the Federal Ministry of Finance and the CBN to immediately look into ways of ensuring that the provisions of our extant laws on the funding of this agency are implemented without question. I want to say that except this is done, the number of Nigerians who continue to die on our roads, the poor state of Nigerian roads will remain with us in the near future. I see no end to it. I therefore want to use this opportunity to once more call on the Central Bank, the Minister of Finance, and indeed even the Attorney General of the Federation, who is the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the government, to ensure that the PPRA Act is implemented appropriately and funds that are due to this agency are released without further delay. To the agency itself, I want to say that despite the poor record of releases to the agency, there's also need for the agency to be more cost efficient in the handling of resources. And I want to use this opportunity to commend the present management under the leadership of Engineer Rafindadi for a change which I have seen in the light of some of the expenditures that we witnessed here in the recent past, where funds that were meant for the maintenance of roads were being used to purchase childish items, if I must say so. And several sums of money that should have been spent on roads were frittered away, even in the face of the scarce resources that we are all complaining about. But under this management, I'm happy to say that there is now a clearer perspective of the objectives of the agency. And I want to urge you to continue to maintain that level of probity that will ensure that Nigerians get value for money. I thank the MD and the management for the very warm reception, and we believe that our interaction with the agency will continue at all times until the end of our assignment to the Senate. Thank you very much.
Both parties also saw the need to hasten the maintenance of all damaged portions of roads across the country to avert road disasters during the end-of-year holiday period. This is why we'll call it a day on this week's edition of the program from the National Assembly. I'm Ignatius Nkwo. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Issues in the sports sector remain one of the most debated among Nigerians due to the passion, followership, government involvement, impact on Nigeria's external image and our national life in the sports parliament. The NTA offers Nigerians deep views on issues with experts in the sports sector, offering in-depth analysis, hindsight, insight and foresight towards elevating Nigerian sports to the zenith on the floor of the sports parliament.
The benefits that accrued in school sports, it is the bedrock of any nation.
A few Nigerians wanted the status quo to continue. So I don't think we should put all Nigerians and say Nigerians don't follow the trend, because the smart ones, we are following the trend.
The National Sports Lottery Fund, shrouded in secrecy.
The fact that the Super Eagles played an NTA, not only NTA, no Nigerian broadcaster, in fact, no broadcaster anywhere in the world from our records was able to bring that much. It's a matter of concern.
Issa Hayatu was president for 29 years. He lost the election in Addis, and that's it. He's gone.
Sports Parliament, a unique platform for sports discussions, showing live on the NTA, Thursdays at 11 p.m. Keep a date with the parliamentarians.
The eyes have it.
You don't do. I don't tire for all the things where you yarn.
You the yarn of butter. Sure you think say na only you feed booga? I go show you.
This matter don't pass, be careful. You dey show yourself all these years, I just dey look you. This time, you go know the kind of person where
I've been the watch as you dey try scatter my future.
The future where I dey try
organize for myself.
Small. Now him you dey try kill abi?
Not to kill, scatter, and destroy my power.